Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on the Listener's Experience Zone, The Les.
You have some pumpkin hair.
Our pumpkin exploded before this episode.
Well, just the top did. It's still there.
We had quite the weekend.
We did, starting with tracks. If you live in Denver, you might know about First Friday at Tracks, and it is quite the time.
We'll tell our listeners what that is.
First Friday at Tracks is dedicated to Lesbian Night, Women's Plus Night. I don't know exactly what they call it, but it's a lot of fun. We made our yearly appearance on Friday night with my flag football team, plus a bunch of other ladies, and it was a lot of fun.
We did have a blast. We danced a lot, which is really all I want to do.
Same. And shout out to my football team, Street Meet. Great name.
It's horrible.
So fun. But yeah, the dancing was so fun. The group we went out with was so fun. Everyone was just having a grand old time. And you turned to me at one point and I couldn't even hear because the music was so loud. I feel like I needed earplugs, which reason one, we're too old.
Yes.
And reason two is you said to me that you couldn't get as low as you normally do because your knees were hurting you.
This was the first time. So like I've had knee issues where like I'm not able to dance because like my knees actually hurt. But this was the first time that both my knees were just achy and I was trying to like, get a little bit lower. And I was like, oh no, wait, I cannot.
I really got a good laugh out of that. So music's too loud and knees are too achy, but nonetheless, we prevailed and had a great time.
And we were the first people to leave.
Yeah. Hey, and I thought we made it pretty long.
I think we did a great job. We came, we saw, we conquered. We got to spend time with your friends. I really appreciated that and got to dance to some good music. They played Bad Bunny. I was super pumped. And then it was like, what time? 12:30?
Yeah.
We were like, let's head out of here. We had a great night.
Yeah, we did. And then we come home to our very old house.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about this. Oh my God. PTSD. It's all coming back.
Started making a chicken quesadilla.
As you do.
And went to the bathroom and the toilet clogged.
Number one or number two?
Number one.
Just a number one. Toilet clogged. Basement flooding.
Yeah, this
upstairs bathroom flooding.
Overflowed the toilet. You ran to the basement. You were like, there's water everywhere. This is at like 1 a.m. at this point. It just, this house
never
keeps us on our toes.
It never ends.
I woke up with a headache Saturday and we had to prevail and still get work done in the basement because the fun never stops in our house.
It never stops. And I had these towels. I think we were both just screaming at one point. I was like, these piss towels, I can't stand it anymore.
Oh, it's too good. But I would say we got some good work done in the basement this weekend. And I am so proud of what we did. We have the start of a floating wall.
Yep.
Which, if you don't know what a floating wall is, don't worry. We didn't know what it was either till all this. But in Denver, apparently the floor moves up and down. To be up to code, you need to have a floating wall. So on Sunday, we were able to accomplish that. We got a new framing gun and we got it to work.
We did.
Figured it out. You're still too afraid to touch it.
I won't touch it.
After you almost flew off the
step stool
last week. But I got that bad boy working, and every time I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you were really pumped up. Give me a saw. I like the saw. That's the power tool that I like in the house, not the hammer drill or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hammer gun, whatever. We have both.
I still stand by my theory that finishing your own basement is a sport. And we are slowly but surely getting better.
We're losing in it. We're losing this sport. But
No.
yeah, maybe we're making some incremental positive change.
Yeah, you wanted to give up on me a few times on Sunday. And I was like, Carolyn, we are so close to getting this thing hung. Just bear with me for like 30 more minutes.
Yep.
30 more minutes is all I need. I threw my hands up in the air when we got it like Rocky. I've never been more proud. This has been harder than any marathon I've ever run, any game I've
Wow.
ever played. This basement stuff. Some people are commenting on our stuff that we need to get someone to do it for us, but I'm still stubborn as hell and we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah, shout out to the commenter on YouTube was like, just please get a TaskRabbiter. And I don't think they meant it in a mean way. I think they were just like, please help
saying
yourself.
it in a playful way.
But we're too cheap and we're not desperate enough yet. Although there have been many mental breakdowns, I think we need at least 5 more before we really decide to pay someone.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
All right, let's get into some professional sports.
Yes. Even though I still think this is a professional sport, but let's get into the highlight reel for this week.
The PWHL unveiled logos and names for both the Seattle and Vancouver teams. The Seattle are now the Seattle Torrent, and Vancouver is now the Vancouver Goldeneyes.
Interesting. I don't really understand either of those. What is Torrent?
So Torrent is, like a torrential downpour,
okay.
fast moving water.
Okay.
And the Goldeneyes, it's a duck. Maybe like a nod to the Mighty Ducks. The duck is cool looking, but it is still a duck. However, I kind of like the duck better than the Torrent. Which do you like better? Looking at the names and logos.
I actually like Torrent better. At first, I was like, what does that mean? I'm thinking Seattle Rain, Torrent. I feel like it kind of goes Seattle Storm. I feel like it goes with all the other Seattle teams. So
that's a great point that I did not connect.
Yeah, I like that. And I honestly like the logo better than the I. I don't know why, but I think the logo is pretty cool and it looks like water. The S is like a water. So I'm a big fan and I like the colors.
I like the colors for Seattle a lot. I think the GoldenEye logo is awesome.
It's like a duck and an eye at the same time.
Where's the duck?
So if you see the outline, the beak is like on the right side, and I feel like the pupil can also be a wing.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. I also just wish that teams would go back to naming teams after animals. That's why I kind of like the Goldeneyes better, because like, why does everything have to be a noun and a verb?
That's a lot. And the mascots are so confusing when they're not an animal or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's like they become too controversial. I don't know. But give me an elephant.
Greyhound.
A greyhound. Give me a gamecock.
Yeah.
Colleges are very good at naming after animals, but these professional teams, I guess the animals have been used so much and maybe it comes into some copyright stuff that they're not able to use it. But I'm like, can we find some more animals? But Vancouver found it. They went with their GoldenEye duck. We are actually going to be able to see both of these teams play.
I am so excited.
On Monday, the PWHL announced the Takeover Tour is back and it is expanding. There will now be 16 neutral site regular season games played outside of the established cities where teams are located. I believe last year there were 9, so almost doubling them. They're going to visit 7 new cities: Calgary, Chicago, Dallas, Halifax, Hamilton, Winnipeg, and Washington, D.C. If I'm being very honest, I've never heard of Hamilton before, but I'm assuming it is in Canada somewhere. I'm so sorry, Canadian listeners. But Denver is hosting 2 games. On January 25th, they'll be hosting Vancouver versus Seattle. I'm so excited we're going to get to see the 2 new teams play. And then on March 15th, we get New York and Minnesota.
That is awesome. Maybe I'll get some Seattle gear because I love the Seattle Storm.
Ooh.
So I'll just continue on the Seattle train.
And we have a Seattle Rain t-shirt. We're collecting our Seattle stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I'm really excited. Denver really showed out last year when the PWHL came, so I really hope we do the same, and I have full confidence that we will.
I'm so excited to be there. It's now time to talk about the NWSL.
Oh my gosh. This weekend was just crazy. Those games all were played so tightly.
Yep.
So close. My biggest takeaway is I honestly feel bad for Jillian. Jillian was on our podcast last week. If you haven't listened, take a listen. Jillian, if you're listening, I'm sorry that your Kansas City Current are out. I was in full shock when
Same.
Gotham beat them.
Yeah, we'll get into that game, but Jillian, we love you. And we were rooting for Kansas City for you.
Seriously, what?
And such a great story, and it just came crashing down in these quarterfinals. So let's get into each of these matches. We'll start with the first game of the weekend, Orlando versus Seattle. Orlando wins 2-0. This was actually the only quarterfinal match completed in regulation time. Every other quarterfinal match was completed in extra time, stoppage time, PKs. We'll get into it. Really, what I want to talk about in this match is that the ref was wearing a camera. The head ref was wearing a camera on either his chest or his head. It must have been on his chest because I didn't see anything on his head. Who knows why they did this, but it was the most chaotic scene I've ever seen at a game. It was so funny. Marta is just like in his face yelling. She ended up actually getting a yellow card for it, but to see like a tiny little Marta just coming at you so angrily and all the other players just like looking and yelling, it was amazing. Some great footage in this match.
And I love how they just would transition from the regular camera to the ref's camera. It's like you're being yelled at in that moment. It was really funny.
Haley McCutcheon scored in the 21st minute for Orlando. And then in stoppage time at the end of the game, Marta was fouled in the penalty box. And midfielder for Orlando, Luana, took the penalty kick to get her first career NWSL goal. This was a really cool moment. Luana was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in April 2024 and finished chemotherapy last month.
Wow.
So she comes into this game. Marta gets fouled. She kisses the ball and she gives it to Luana. Just like I have in my notes here, I just fucking love Marta. She's so intense, but then she's just this amazing teammate. And Luana scores the second goal for Orlando. And that's how the game ends. Orlando advance to the semifinals.
Yeah. Happy for Marta. As I said, I just want more content of her and her mom at these games.
Or her yelling at refs. Okay, let's get into this Racing Louisville versus Washington Spirit.
Yeah, this was definitely a close one. We weren't sure what the injury list would be like, but turned out Trinity Rodman could not play in this game, which is obviously scary for Washington Spirit given how much of an impact she has on the field. But they were still able to prevail, which is really good for them. But it's interesting because she was listed as available before the game, but still didn't play. So I feel like maybe the coach is not wanting to reveal exactly what's happening with her.
Playing some games. She didn't warm up with the team, and also the subs during the game will warm themselves up to stay warm. She didn't do that. Washington Spirit end up winning this match in penalty kicks, and she does run onto the field when they win, and she looks fine. So I'm not really sure what's going on. I do think there's some games being played by the Washington Spirit organization to not fully say exactly what's going on with Trinity Rodman.
So will be interesting moving forward, but they were tied 1-1 and then they had to go into penalty kicks. So they went past the 2 overtime.
It's so confusing because there's stoppage time. So stoppage time at the end of the game and the end of the half. And then there's extra time, which is that overtime.
Yeah. So they played in their extra time, still tied 1-1, went to PKs. During PKs, Aubrey Kingsbury saved 2 of Racing Louisville's 4 shots, and the Spirit were able to convert all 3 of their shots. So with that, the Spirit ended up taking away the win in PKs.
We need to take a second to talk about Aubrey Kingsbury. Her save percentage in shootouts is 34.6%. Every other keeper in the league combined, they have 20 saves and 156 attempts. So their save percentage is 12.8%.
Ooh.
She is the best shootout goalie in NWSL history. So a great person to have on your team, a great goalie to have if you're going into PKs.
That's incredible. I really wonder what her method is. It's definitely a combination of watching on to film. You have to see what people normally do when they go up for PKs, but that can only help you so much. So I feel like a lot of it also has to be just being able to read someone's body language as they're about to go up for the shot. And of course, probably the most important thing is her reaction time. penalty kicks have to be one of the hardest things to save, and that percentage is truly just unbelievable.
It is. It's such a feat, and Washington Spirit finds a way to win here, advance on to the semifinals.
And I know we have a lot of friends who are Washington Spirit fans who are very happy with this.
Yes, they are, especially after last week when we thought maybe Racing Louisville would find a way to win, which they really gave it their all and forced extra time and then those PKs. Let's get into this Gotham versus Kansas City game. Again, as a reminder, this was the 8 versus the 1, and Gotham wins 2-1.
Yeah, I'm still not over this. But again, a lot of it has to do with injuries. Yeah. And it just sucks when players are injured, especially this time of the season when it impacts wins and losses.
Yeah, Temwa Chawinga was out for Kansas City. Michelle Cooper didn't play in this match. For Gotham, Noah Stair. But Jaden Shaw scores for Gotham in the 68th minute. And honestly, I thought that was it. Kansas City looked flat.
That goal also confused me a little bit. I feel like the angle she had on that, the goalie should have had it. And obviously...
on Jaden Shaw's goal.
Yeah, but... it's really amazing she was able to get it past the goalie at the angle she was at.
It was a crazy angle. So we're nearing the end of the game, and I'm like, this is it. Like, Kansas City's just going to bow down here. And with seconds left in the game, Kansas City's Ellie Wheeler scored for the Current to make it 1-1. And again, I think this was a goalie mistake. Ann Ketchenberger for Gotham, one of the best goalies, but misread it and ties up the game 1-1 in the 6th minute of stoppage time.
Yeah.
So we go into extra time now. And in the 121st minute, Katie Stengel scored the game-winning goal for Gotham. This is the first time Gotham has beat Kansas City all season. They either lost to them or drew this entire season. This loss for Kansas City also ends an 18 unbeaten streak at home for the Current.
Oof, that is a tough pill to swallow.
I just felt like everyone was so sad in the stands. Yeah. It was just so rough. It was rough to watch. But Gotham heads to their 3rd straight semifinal. And we talked about this last week when they were in the 6th seed. They won the entire thing. And that was when they only had 6 teams make it into playoffs. Now they have 8 teams in playoffs, and they find a way to beat the best team of the season.
And we said it from the start. Them as an 8 seed is a rough matchup for Kansas City from the start. Like, we knew that because is Gotham really an 8 seed? They just struggled at the end of the season bringing them down. So nonetheless, they move on.
And let's get into this final matchup of the weekend. It was the Portland Thorns versus the San Diego Wave. Portland wins this game 1-0. This was a stoppage time goal. Both teams were scoreless through 90 minutes, but then Raylan Turner for the Portland Thorns broke through, scored a goal in the 4th minute of extra time with a header from Olivia Moultrie. This ball from Olivia Moultrie, she is so good. It was placed perfectly. Raylan Turner was in the exact right spot, and Portland wins the game and will now face the Washington Spirit in the semifinals.
Ooh, that's going to be a good matchup. I'm excited for these next upcoming games.
The last 4 NWSL champions made it to the semifinals, which I thought was an interesting fact. So the Spirit won in 2021, the Portland Thorns won in 2022, Gotham in 2023, and Orlando in 2024. And now they're going to face off in the semifinals. Pretty crazy.
I love that. And they've all been there before. We talked about it in the past with other sports. Half the battle is, have you been in this position before? So it's going to be a tough go for all of these teams.
It's going to be very exciting. Let's get into some updates.
Yes. So we have Run Club this Thursday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time here in Denver at the 99ers Sports Bar. If you listen to our podcast and share a secret word each week with the bartenders after our 3-mile run, you can get 50% off your first draft. The secret word this week is Gotham.
We got to give them some credit. Gotham came from the 8 seed and beat Kansas City, so they're getting the secret word this week.
Yes.
We also have to take some time to remind our listeners to please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We love putting this podcast together. We want to continue to do it, and we create, produce, and edit the podcast ourselves. So if you want to support us, which I know you do, please rate, subscribe, give us a positive review, and most importantly, share with someone in your life who you think would also love this podcast. We really appreciate everyone who has taken the time to rate the podcast. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker. So send over those screenshots and get yourself a nice little Women's Sports Weekly sticker.
Yes. And with that, let's get into the deep dive for this week. I am so excited because college basketball is back in full force. So we are going to talk about NCAA basketball and provide a preview for this season.
Let's get into the preseason top 10. UConn in the number 1 spot, South Carolina in the number 2, UCLA in the number 3, Texas 4. At 5 is LSU, 6 is Oklahoma, 7 is Duke, 8 Tennessee, 9 NC State, and 10 Maryland.
It's interesting because I'm looking at these teams and the top 4, which makes sense for preseason, were the 4 that were in the Final Four last year, and they all have a lot of returners, and all these teams are looking good again. Starting with UConn, obviously they had some big losses, including Paige Beckers, who was drafted number 1 in the past WNBA draft, but they look scary good.
For me, they're definitely in the Final Four.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I feel like last year, it's interesting. They ended up winning the national championship, but there were times in the season where even my dad, who I've talked about him on the pod before being a huge UConn fan, last year, he's like, I just don't know if they have it in them this year. And right away, already this year, he's like, they look good.
And the reason why we always struggle with UConn is because their conference is just not as good.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to gauge how good they actually are because they're not playing the highest caliber teams.
But they have incredible players still on. They've added a Wisconsin transfer, Sarah Williams. And then you have Sarah Strong, who's a sophomore now, who as a freshman was unbelievable. When we were at the Final Four last year, watching her as a freshman on that stage play so well, so composed. Now she's a sophomore and looking better than ever. Unreal.
Sarah Strong's only a sophomore?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
She was only a freshman last year.
Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead.
And then you have AZ Fudge. She's in her final season at UConn. You know she wants to win another championship. And I would say that both of these players could be player of the year at this point. Obviously, a lot can change, but they're both All-Americans. And I would say they're going to be the storyline for this team. Obviously, they have other key players, but those two are going to lead the way.
I think about a conversation we actually had with Ryan Rucco at the Final Four last year, and he said Sarah Strong, if she went into the draft, would be my number 1 draft pick. For me, she's player of the year. Preseason player of the year, that's who I'm going with. Watching her in person, I was amazed.
Yeah.
Amazed. The ways that she moves, she does everything. Yeah, UConn's going to be a problem this year.
And I'm knocking on wood that she stays healthy because that would be the only thing that could get in her way. So hoping good things for her.
Knock on all the wood. We don't want anyone getting injured.
No.
Okay, let's talk about South Carolina. They added transfer Tanaya Latson, the All-American from Florida State. She averaged 28.5 points per game with the Seminoles. She is amazing. I cannot wait to see her play with the Gamecocks this year. She's played with Raven Johnson in the past, so there's already this connection there. As per usual, the Gamecocks are just very well-rounded. They have Tanaya Latson in the backcourt, Raven Johnson, and Tessa Johnson. Notably, they did lose Mylasia Fulwiley to LSU, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But if Joyce Edwards can get moving in the way that Joyce Edwards can get moving, I think the Gamecocks have a very strong chance. And that's news to nobody, right? That's not like a crazy take.
Absolutely. And getting one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer in the country, added to your roster, I think that's huge for them. And to your point, you have players who were younger last year, and now they're all the more mature and understand what Dawn wants and understands what it takes to be a top collegiate athlete. They're going to be very good, and I'm excited for them.
For me, Joyce Edwards is similar to Sarah Strong, but she needs just like a little bit more refinement.
Yep.
The Gamecocks are actually going to head to the Players Era Championship in Las Vegas over Thanksgiving, where they will face Duke and then the winner of Texas and UCLA. And so that's going to be their first big test coming up in November. So I'll be excited to watch those games and kind of see where people are. I've been watching college games, and it's so interesting to transfer from watching WNBA to then watching college, because there's a big difference. So my eyes have to get used to it. But everyone's still in these first couple of games. Some teams look a little out of shape. Some people are moving a little bit slow. It just is like, okay, let's get back into shape.
Yeah, for sure. And then up next, we're going to talk a little bit about UCLA. You have Lauren Betts coming back, their 6'7" center. She was also the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year last year as a junior. She had 19 double-doubles last season. And who's joining her this year? Her younger sister, Sienna Betts, who is 6'4". She is, quote-unquote, a more diverse scorer. We'll see how she does at the collegiate level. And so she is a freshman at UCLA this year. She was also ESPN's number 2 recruit in the 2025 class. So I'm really excited to see those two play together. I think it's so fun watching siblings play together.
And it's nice for Sienna Betts to have her sister there. That just has to be so nice because you can go to your sister and figure out, like, what does coach mean when they say this? Or how does this work? How does the offense work? And so that's really like a cheat code to have someone, a senior on your team, to be able to relay that information.
I've already seen some TikToks come through and looks like she's fitting right in. Then they added Gianna Neepkins, who came from Utah, and she is great scoring from the 3, so that will be a good add for them. They did lose some talent in the transfer portal, which I think a lot of teams struggled with this past year, and I don't know if the transfer portal will ever calm down. So I think gaining and losing some, they'll just have to figure out what their team is going to be this year.
UCLA is interesting because they're well coached. They made it to the Final Four last year, and then they really suffered. They lost a lot of people in the transfer portal, and I don't know. They performed really poorly at the Final Four.
Yes, they did not play well at all.
So I hope this is a redemption year for them, and I think you learn a lot going to a Final Four, so maybe there were some lessons learned there. But to me, they are the team that I have lower confidence in out of the top 4.
Fair.
All right, let's get into Oklahoma. Oklahoma has freshman Aaliyah Chavez. She's a 5'10" guard. She was Gatorade National Player of the Year, and she is playing alongside all SEC first team Reagan Beers, who, like, will Reagan Beers ever retire? Is she 35 at this point? I cannot tell. Reagan Beers leads the team in scoring and rebound and was shooting 63% from the field, which is just a wild shooting percentage.
Yes.
What's interesting about Oklahoma is that over 55% of their scoring, rebound, and minutes are returning this year. So a lot of people coming back. Can they win an SEC title? My bias is telling me no. I can't stand Oklahoma. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the SEC is a tough conference, so yeah, don't see them winning it with all the other talented teams on there, but I still think they'll have a really good season.
It's going to be this clip and them in the Final Four and us just like inserting our foot into our mouth. Let's get into LSU.
Yeah, LSU lost some key players, whether it be graduation or the transfer portal after last season. They do have their top scorers returning, though, Flau'jae Johnson and Michaela Williams. And then they also added some players. Obviously, we talked about they added Mylesia Fulwiley from South Carolina, which sucks for our Gamecock fans, including us. They also added 6'5" Kate Koval from Notre Dame. Then you have 6'2" senior Amaya Joyner from East Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see how this team gels as well.
Michaela Williams is one of my favorite players to watch, so hoping for good things for her this season. And I'm hoping that Mylesia Fulwiley does well too. It looks like she's continuing to come off the bench, which I think is very interesting because I think that's why she left South Carolina. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes me sad more than anything because I'm like, you could have just stayed. But, you know, everyone has to do what they need to do to take care of themselves. I'm just a little bit bitter and I only want good things for them.
Yeah.
Let me make that very clear. Okay, let's talk about Texas. They're returning 3 of their top 4 scorers. They have Madison Booker. She won SEC Player of the Year last year. They have Rory Harmon, which another person, like, will she ever graduate? I feel like she's been here forever. 230 assists last year, all SEC defensive team. And then they added Brea Cunningham from Arizona, who was ranked top 10 in the Big 12 in rebounding and blocks.
And then we'll round out with 2 more teams we just want to touch on. So we have Tennessee. They're returning 3 of their top 4 players. They also picked up a few transfers. They have 6'4" Janiah Barker from UCLA, 6'5" Jersey Wolfenbarger from LSU, and then all ACC guard Nia Robertson from SMU. They are also welcoming ESPN's number 2 recruiting class. So all 5 freshmen were ranked in the top 60 in the class of 2025.
Tennessee is who I think could make a deeper run this year.
I hope so. It was tough to see them lose to NC State this past week. But again, so much happens throughout the season. Yeah. It's one game. That's a tough game to come out to. They're both they were the 8 and 9 preseason. But I agree. They have a great coach. They have some returning key players. So I also think it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do this year.
And then the final team we'll talk about is Duke, who they have a lot of people coming back. They have ACC Rookie of the Year, Toby Fournier, who didn't start a single game last year, but led the team in scoring with 13.2 points per game. They have Ashlyn Jackson returning, Delaney Thomas, and Taina Mayer, who was their assist leader. Notably, they did lose Aluchi Okanawa to Maryland, which I thought was again, an interesting move. I thought she fit in really well on that team. Maryland is in the top 10 in the preseason, so we'll see how she does there. But Duke is returning this core group of talent, and again, they're well coached. I think they're going to be a problem.
So those are the teams we're going to cover for today. I would say those are going to be some good teams to watch, especially at the start of the season when you're getting into watching games. So check some of those teams out. So now that we talked about all the top teams and got into them and talked about a lot of the top players, I want to talk about a few more top players / notable transfers that we haven't hit on yet. I'm sad we haven't talked about Notre Dame as part of the top teams, but obviously they lost a lot of players. But one of the players still on their team that we have to talk about is junior guard Hannah Hidalgo. She is such a great player. She had great games across the board last season. She's really good on defense. She is very high energy on both ends of the court, an efficient scorer, and I just think she's going to be key for Notre Dame this year, and I'm interested to see what they do. I think they'll have a decent season, but probably not as good as I would like for them to have.
Yeah, because she is their key. She is that person, and that's a big weight to carry for one person who's a smaller guard.
Yeah. And that takes us to why she's the only key player. Is one of the transfers we're going to talk about is Olivia Miles. So she is a senior guard. She was at Notre Dame and she ended up transferring to TCU at the end of the season last year. Last year, she had a career high average of 15.5 points per game. And she was also 15th in the country in assists per game with 5.8. So that's a huge loss for Notre Dame.
I was watching TCU play this last Sunday, and Olivia Miles is just amazing. But I look at the rest of TCU, and they actually, in their game this past weekend, Donovan Hunter for them played incredibly well, but it was Olivia Miles who was providing all the assists for her. And I don't think, from what I saw this past Sunday, I'm like, I don't know how TCU brings this together to be an Elite 8 team or even a Sweet 16 team, but Olivia Miles is so good.
Yeah. So curious to see, even though she left Notre Dame, obviously still want good things for her, but can't say I'll be rooting for TCU this year, regardless of where she's at. And with that, why don't we talk about some dark horses?
We already talked a little bit about these teams, and they're in the top 8, but Oklahoma and Duke, to me, have the potential to move up a lot higher in the rankings in that 1 through 5 spot, which they aren't at currently. But I do think if we're going to talk about towards the top sleeper teams, those are my top. Mm-hmm. We also have to talk about the Baylor Bears. They finished second in the Big 12 last season. They're returning 30% of their scoring and 32% of their minutes from last season. So about a third of their team is coming back. They beat Duke last week in the season opener and outscored Duke 15-9 in the fourth quarter. So a huge win for them to start off the season.
And then we have NC State. I already mentioned this before, but they already beat Tennessee this year. It was such a close game. They won 80-77 this past Tuesday. But then they come back and lose to number 18 USC on Sunday, 69-68. And then Iowa State and Notre Dame are at the preseason rankings 14 and 15. And I think they can work their way up too.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Audie Crooks for Iowa State, but an amazing player. And I expect that we'll see Iowa State inch on up. I expect to see Notre Dame inch on up, and I expect to see USC inch on up, and all of this fluctuate throughout the year.
Yeah, so I'm excited. With that, we need to get into our way too early Final Four predictions.
Yes, here we go.
Mine are pretty boring.
All right, let's hear it. Are you taking the top 4?
I'm going with last year's Final Four.
It's not going to happen.
I know, but way too early prediction. That's what I'm going with.
Let's hear it.
South Carolina, go Cox. UConn, UCLA, and Texas. There, I said it. What are yours?
Wow. Okay, I'm taking UConn. I'm taking South Carolina for obvious reasons. But then my final 2, I'm taking Duke. I think they're going to pull it together this year. And I'm taking Tennessee. And this is me just wishing. This is what I hope the Final Four is.
I would love to see Tennessee in the Final Four. I used to be a huge fan, and they still have a special place in my heart.
Our predictions are usually wrong, so we'll see where we end up.
So that's our basketball preview for this upcoming season, and that's it for the deep dive this week. With that, let's talk about what we're looking forward to this week. Carolyn, what do you got for us?
Let's talk about the NWSL semifinals. On Saturday, November 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, the Spirit will take on the Portland Thorns on CBS. And then on Sunday, November 16th, Orlando vs. Gotham at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. We will be watching, and we hope you are too. What about for you?
Well, first, who do you have winning these games? Talking about predictions.
Ooh, I don't want to choose. I want the Thorns to win. Sorry, Washington Spirit fans. I'm rooting for Olivia Moultrie, and I want Gotham to win. What about you?
I'm going Spirit Gotham.
Spirit Gotham. All right. We'll see what happens. What are you looking forward to this week, Danielle?
Yes, so tomorrow, Thursday, November 13th, we have NCAA basketball. Number 3 UCLA will take on number 11 North Carolina at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.